Hey there, this is Adam's grandmother, and you're now tuned into the Archives with Adam podcast, where every episode dives deep into Adam's brain archives. With each guest, we uncover hidden stories, real memories, and conversations that bring you closer to the people behind the moment. Now, welcome to the Archives.
Welcome back to another episode of the Archives with Adam podcast. Today's guest is, this episode is just perfectly timed for Halloween season. And if you're like me, Hocus Pocus is a movie that has become a tradition in my household. Now, our guest has played a key role in the timeless classic bringing to life Emily Binx, the sister of Thackery Binx, the beloved black cat that you all see on TV. Please welcome and joining me to the show, Amanda Shepard. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm getting ready to head out to LA here soon. So, you know,
Oh,
it should be fun. It should be fun. And then just working. So yeah, just trying to make time for everything.
nice.
So, ever since we connected, I just been really excited to chat with you and because your energy and your personality, it's really infectious. And you don't see that nowadays, unfortunately,
Aw.
with a lot of people. A lot of people are just like, sad, depressed. They don't really have that energy. It's more like, just leave me alone, right? And I deal with a lot of people, so
Aw.
it's nice. It's nice to connect, with people that have that energy and things like that. But
Thank you.
of course, of course. So yeah, before we dive into the show, as I mentioned to you, leading up to everything, the show is called The Archives with Adam. It's really about digging into my brain archives as well as yours, and just really celebrating your career and everything that you put out, and then you as a human being as well.
Aw. Awesome.
Yeah. So to kind of kick it off, we've seen you as a kid on Hocus Pocus, but would you be willing to tell us how you really got into the industry?
Yeah, it's a really simple story actually. Like not as interesting as one would think. I was at McDonald's and um I was playing on like the jungle gym over there. And a woman was looking at me, and then she saw my mother, and she was just like, "Is that your daughter?" And then my mom was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Why?" She's like, "Oh, well, she's just so adorable," like all this. And I'm an agent with Coast to Coast. That was a talent agency, a big talent agency back in the day. And so my mom grabbed me and she made me shake her hand, and her name was Meredith. And then right from that handshake, everything just took off. Like she set me up with a photographer, got pictures done. And then as soon as I got my pictures right away, I was like going off and going on commercial auditions, and and then after booking so many commercials, um then I started going for movies, and then everything trickled out from there. But specifically Hocus Pocus was, I think at that time I had already done many commercials, and then I got a manager. And I'm not sure whether it was Coast to Coast or my management company that got me that audition, but it all started with McDonald's.
You said it's kind of basic, but I mean,
It's
I've never heard
basic.
a story like that. I've had so many episodes with so many child stars, and it's more like, oh, I went to go do some modeling, and then they didn't think I'd be much of a modeler. It's like, but I've never heard something like that. So no, I think that's pretty cool. You're just out enjoying time with your family, and somebody approaches you guys.
Yep, just out and about. Yeah.
What were some of those commercials that you did partake in, at such a young age?
Oh gosh. So much for Disney, Mattel. I don't know if you remember Mattel,
Yes.
but lots of toy companies. I did Doodle Bear commercial. I did Barbie commercials, Bath Magic Barbie, one of them. I did Pillsbury. Then I did like Calvin Klein and stuff that was like really like, wow, back then, and just tons of stuff. Hanes. Yeah, there's so many I can't remember.
No, that's okay. I mean, that's pretty cool, because I had a guest on and he was in a Burger King commercial where he played a young Will Smith. And we actually went back. I told him, I was like, I'm going to find that commercial. And I found it, and just to see like the nostalgia and just to hear him like, man, like I can't believe you found that. So I'm sure those commercials are still out there somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why like I mentioned ones that you can still find.
Yeah.
So I was like, if anybody tries to fact check me, like they'll find it. But yeah, I did lots of stuff. Love shampoo. Um, gosh, I can't even think. It was just so many. I did like what was it? A commercial with Tracy McGrady. I forgot what I was even doing, but it was with the basketball player for some reason.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, it's hard to like remember. Yeah. But
No,
anyways.
that's totally okay. No, that's cool. Just to hear about that, because those are like things that I even grew up remembering.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Hocus Pocus is 31 years old now. I mean, not to
Oh,
age us, but I was 3 at the time when that came out,
oh my
1993.
God.
It's crazy. What's it like knowing that, it took years for that film to become such a phenomenon that it is, today? Like how do you feel about that?
I feel humble because it was never a big movie back then, and then it just became popular, like you said, like maybe 20, 25, 20 years later. And everybody thought that, that they're like, that's a huge movie. That's a big movie, but it really wasn't. It really wasn't. So,
No, it definitely started out as a flop. Like, that's really
yeah.
what it was labeled as. But at what point did you personally realize, like, wait a minute, people are really obsessed with this movie? Like, was there a moment when it just clicked for you?
Yeah, it was because I got a phone call at my office at the time from a girl who used to be like one of the first YouTube sensations. Um, and she had somehow, I don't, she had somehow gotten the label of Emily Binx's Hocus Pocus. So I don't know how that all came about, but she ended up calling me and saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Like there was a mix up in one interview that I did, and they mixed it up, and I told them that I was an extra in the film, and they just said that I was Emily." And then I was like, "Oh, no worries, no worries. Like I don't care because I'm still getting check."
Yeah.
So yeah, so anyway, so right after that phone call, then E News called me, and I don't know, as a Cosmopolitan, I don't know, like all these different magazines started to reach out to me because I think I was like the the last member of the cast that they didn't hit up. So they were like, who's left?
Mm.
And it was me. So that's how I found out.
So, I mean, you probably
Yeah.
have had a lot of like countless fan encounters. What's been like the wildest or most unexpected thing a fan has done or said to you because of your role?
Hmm. Probably, probably like just cried, like
Uh,
cried and then was like I, I don't know, like loved you growing up, and just the ones that are like emotional, and they've traveled really far, so I always make sure to give all my love, all my love, to those people, and I really appreciate them for coming out. So
Yeah. Yeah. Hearing you earlier talk about, like some of the commercials and things that you have been in, you know, you've given me off like that humble person vibes. But if my math was right, it was about you were about 8 years old at that time when that came out and all the filming. How did you wrap your mind around the idea of being in a movie at such a young age? Were you fully aware how big some of those moments would have been for you?
um well, I wasn't really surprised because by that time I'd been on so many sets, and so to me it was just another set, and I really wasn't told how, what at what magnitude of a project it was. I didn't really know it was like I knew it was a feature film, but I think everybody around me just played it down and played it very casual, maybe perhaps so that I wouldn't be nervous. Yeah, so it was just like no big deal for me, but only because everybody made it seem so natural around me.
How about like post production, actually going to like the theater if you went to go see it or watching it on TV?
Uh, yeah, that was funny to me because once again, it was so foreign to me. So when we went to the screening of it, I guess there was, I don't know what people were invited, but right after the movie, people started asking for my autograph, and I was like, "Oh, wow, what's this?" But I didn't think too much of it. I don't know. When you're a kid, like stuff like that doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're just living a dream. A lot of people have that dream of being an actor, but for you, you got to live it at such a young age.
Yeah, yeah. And what was crazy is that when before I got into acting, um, I told my mother and father that I wanted to be an actor. I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to act. And then maybe I don't know how much later, but not that much later, that's when everything started to happen. So it's like I don't want to try to like infer that like I was born to do it, but
Yeah.
I thought it was kind of like interesting that it was like at such a young age I was like, this is what I want to do, you guys. Like this is it, and then it just kind of happened, and it was just very natural to me. I can't describe it. Like it just seemed natural. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's just maybe there was something that clicked for you at one point and you were just like, this is what I really want to do. Maybe you've seen something on TV or, in the
Yeah.
movies. So
Yeah, I saw something on TV. My dad was watching a show called Quantum Leap, which is like a really old show
yeah.
about a guy who like goes through portals and stuff.
Yeah.
And like I don't know if that foretold like that other side to myself, but but part of after that I was like, I want to do what that guy is doing, like I want to be on the TV. I don't know, it just seemed cool to me.
No, definitely. I mean, you see those things. Like I could understand, I've seen Quantum Leap, it's like,
Do you remember
what are
that
they
show?
doing? Yeah, I do. I do. I mean,
You do?
yeah, like Dukes of Hazzard, MASH, we used to watch it all. So I know I get it. I get it. Um,
Okay.
but your character in the movie, you obviously didn't have that many, parts in it, that many scenes and things like that. But you can
Yeah,
obviously tell
hardly
your
any.
no, it's crazy, right? Like it was in the
Yeah.
beginning and then the
At
end.
the end.
Exactly, exactly. Um, how much time did you spend on set filming, and what was that
I was on
that vibe like?
I was on set like the whole time because they shoot out of order.
Mhm.
So they never know what scene really they're going to do next. And so they just kept everybody on set, regardless. And because I was on set, um, I would just go to other sets and I try to make friends. And that's what I did. I just started to become friends with like all the people that other kids that were doing films. And yeah, they just kept us all there.
What did a day of like filming look like for you? So as I mentioned earlier, I've had other child actors on. Like I had one, he filmed in Chicago and it was like 5:30 in the morning. They were waking up. They didn't want to be up so early. And then they
Oh
wanted
yeah.
coffee, but they were so young and their parents were like, no, you can't have coffee. Like what was a day of
Yeah.
filming like for you? Do you remember?
Yeah. I just remember, first of all, just to do those little teeny scenes that I did, it
Mhm.
took all day. And so it's like, you know, even though you're hardly doing anything, or I was hardly doing anything, you're just still so really like very tired and having to sit in the same place or walk on mirrors for so, just doing the same thing for hours and hours and hours and take after take after take. So I can't imagine, just what other actors who are in every scene, like what they go through. Like it sounds pretty exhausting to me.
Oh, without a doubt. And I can't even imagine being so young and having to sit still and, having to make sure that,
Yeah.
it sounds insane.
Yeah, I didn't sit still, and you can see it in the movie. Like they didn't fix that.
Dude, I was gonna ask you about that because like obviously in the beginning you have to sit still when they have like I guess your character possessed and under that trance, right? And then they throw a
Yeah.
blanket over you. I'm just like, how does one sit still at that young of an age and not laugh? Like, how did you control that?
Oh my God, like my back hurt, and I was like, oh my God, I can't do this for much longer. I was like, yeah, I was tired
I bet.
for sure.
I bet.
Yeah.
Um, Emily, obviously, she was an important role of the movie. Um, she's become obviously a fan favorite over the years. What's one thing about her that, fans don't realize but should? Something we may be, missing out about who she is.
Who Emily Binx is?
No, so it's like, she's obviously become a character that, people have known over the years, but like, is there anything about her that we may not have noticed?
Let me think.
That's kind of like one of those dig into your brain archives questions.
Yeah. Well, because I'm trying to think what the producer, or the director may have intended that I wasn't even aware of, you know?
Mm.
But I think that they just wanted somebody that just seemed very innocent, like very innocent and like very, pure, I guess. And yeah, I think that's about it.
It's like one of those questions I even want myself to go back and think about and just pay attention to every detail, when I watch the movie again.
Yeah. And like, yeah, I don't know, like some of the people that would cry would say like, oh, like I have a younger sister and she reminded me of you, and she was always just like so sweet. And yeah, so once again, like also that familiarity, like I couldn't be this like out of this world looking person, you know what I mean? Like I
Mhm.
had to be relatable, and kind of be able to have people look at me and identify, themselves.
Mhm. Yeah. So I wanted to ask as well as, how was that reunion scene at the end when, you're reconnecting with Thackery? Obviously you're not a translucent person, but is there anything that was happening on the set that they had you guys like wearing to kind of really help enhance that visual, or is that more like post-production editing?
There was editing, but the scene, like how we shot it, was still bizarre. It was like we had to walk on these huge mirrors. Um and for whatever reason, like that would reflect like the type of lighting that they needed for the FX. So so we had to be, not slip, not fall. We had to be very careful and like, walk on mirrors basically. So yeah.
That's crazy. I mean, I would have figured like maybe they use like a green screen or something, but the technology back in
Yeah.
the day wasn't as
Yeah.
advanced as it is now?
If you think about it, yeah, they weren't as advanced back then, so they had to do a lot of the legwork themselves.
Oh yeah. It makes you appreciate the films a lot more, and Hollywood back in the day, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So I just kind of wanted to fast forward a little bit more to Hocus Pocus 2. Obviously we had I can't even call it a cameo. It was just more like they recycled clips, but they put
Yeah.
Emily back in there. Like, was there
Mhm.
ever like a moment where they were like, "Hey, we're going to use you"? I mean, obviously you were in the first
Yeah,
one.
I had to sign a contract. Fairy Dust Productions gave me a call, and I thought I was gonna have to go on set. Not have to go, happy to go,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, cool. Like, when do I show up? And they're like, no, no, no. Like, we just want to use the clip. And I was like, sweet, so. So then I had the lawyer revise the contract because I knew that they were going to continue to use the clip. Or I thought if they continue to use the clip, um, you know, like that needs to be compensated for.
Oh, 100%.
So, and so it's like so many people get, screwed in that industry. So I was like, yeah, like I'd be happy to sign it, but I need your attorney to revise it so that if you continue to use the clip, then I'm on the residual list. So yeah, so I made sure of that, but yeah,
Well,
but
I
I
think
think it's really
residuals.
cool, huh?
Okay. I said I think residuals should have been given. If not, they definitely. I mean, it's a clip of you at one point. So
Yeah, yeah. Anyways, like that was super cool. Like they didn't have to do that,
yeah.
and I thought that was really cool that they did. And when I saw it, I was like, I think that was a really good idea on their part because it helped to meld the bridge the two together.
Mm,
And I felt like that was kind of needed. Because the second one is just so different.
yes.
So I don't know. I thought that was a good idea on their part. Mm.
I tried to watch the second one, but I couldn't get into it respectfully.
Yeah,
It was way different. Like you said, it was like this wasn't a needed movie, unfortunately.
yeah. So yeah, it wasn't for me, but then again, it certainly wasn't for my demographic.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. But the actors did a great job, a wonderful job. So I'm not knocking them in any way.
100%.
But yeah, I was just kind of like, mm.
Yeah. Yeah. So one final question on that, because there's a lot of exciting things that, you're up to nowadays that I would love to chat about. But you probably spent a lot of your time on set with, like Sarah Jessica Parker, Bette Midler. and even Kathy Najimy. Are there any behind the scenes stories or memorable moments with them that stick out to you, or even any other castmates?
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, like I have a story, and it's like it never leaves my memory because it's just like imprinted there. And that's the story with Thora Birch, where like we were going on set into the makeup trailer, and I was like, who is this girl? Like she is like so confident, and I wasn't that confident. And she went to the makeup person in the makeup chair, and she told the makeup person like, oh, I can do my makeup myself. I'm good. Like, you don't need to help me. And I'm like, whoa, like, I don't have the balls to do that. And that was when I knew. I was like, whoa, like this girl's something else. Like she's for sure like a pro. She's really like experienced. So yeah, Thora Birch was something else as a young kid, like just so beyond her age and absolutely amazing. And then Kathy Najimy was wonderful, super nice, and she carried me everywhere, which was really cute. And then Sarah Jessica Parker, surprisingly, she was like very hippy dippy. Like she was very like laid back and soft spoken, and you could tell that she was, I don't know, she's just kind of like hippie to me.
That's crazy.
Huh?
I said that's crazy. I wouldn't have expected that.
Yeah, and then Bette Midler was very diva-like in the best sense, like
Okay.
in the best sense, like very, very much a, a golden diva. Yeah,
She has every right to be.
yeah, she freaking deserves it. Yeah.
But definitely. Yeah, so we talked some Hocus Pocus, but obviously, like I said, there's a lot more to the people that I have on my show. I don't like to treat it as like an interview, more like just a hangout, ask some questions and things like
Yeah.
that. But before all of this, I asked you if there was like any charities, foundations, and things like that you work with, or any projects that you have in the works. And I want to start with the memoir, Becoming Multidimensional. That
Oh, yeah.
that
Okay.
title alone, like it's powerful.
Aw.
And you mentioned it's like a book as well. It's a book and a memoir at the same time. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
what inspired you to write this and get all of this information out there? Is it a part of like a personal story, part guide to exploring deeper layers of life?
Yeah. So I actually have it. So here's the book,
Okay.
Becoming Multidimensional. But anyways, yeah, it's definitely deeply, deeply personal, and it's about um my life journey, obviously, but specifically my spiritual journey. But I include everything about it, like about my entire life in there. And then what prompted me to write the book was it was weird. I had maybe throughout my life a couple people, more than two, that said, you're gonna write a book someday, like random people on the street. Um, and I'm just like, I didn't think much of it. And then out of nowhere, I think for a year, I started just like thinking about it, like maybe I should write a book, but I don't have the whole story yet. And I'm not ready to just yet. But someday I will. And then when that day came, then my insecurity started to kick in. So I was like, I have a book to write, but who's going to read it? I was like, I don't think anybody's going to read it. And so, basically I had a dream, and in my dream, a spirit came into my dream and said, start documenting your life and write your book. And then I was like, why though? going to read it. And then the spirit said, people would like to read it. Start now. And so after that, I was like, man, I better write it. So yeah, so I wrote it. And then coincidentally, like seriously coincidentally, I had just randomly decided to sign autographs and go on tour. Um, and it just worked out. Like it was so weird. Like I wrote the book and then all of a sudden I was like, you know what? I think I'd like to sign autographs. Like I wonder if like there's a place for me there, you know? And then I just kind of put it out there on my social media. Like, and yeah, I think within a month, like I started touring with my castmate, and my manager was like, bring your book. You can sell your book too. And I'm like, I didn't think of that. So it worked out.
Perfect. And where can everybody find that? Is it on, I mean, what is it that people use these days? Kindles or Amazon Books?
Yeah, so you can get it on Amazon, Becoming Multidimensional. You can get it at Barnes and Noble, Becoming Multidimensional. You can get it at Target. Um, so those are the main three places, but it's in tons and tons of bookstores and all over the place.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna have to download it tonight if I could find it on my iPad and have it for the plane ride. Why not? Right.
Yeah, there's Kindle, but people hit me up and they're like, do you have like like the vocal one, like the where you're speaking? I'm like, no. They're like,
Audios.
you should have that one. I'm like, man, like I already wrote a book. Give me a break. Like I got to do the vocal one now.
I'm
So,
gonna definitely pick up a copy. I'm gonna definitely pick one up.
oh, thank you.
Of course, of course. So you also have a business, and correct me on the pronunciation of it. Is it Shakina Speak?
You actually pronounced it super correctly.
Okay,
So yeah, it is Shakina. But the other way that you can spell it is Shekinah.
Shakina.
So you're doing it the correct Hebrew Aramaic way. But yeah, so it's Shekinah speaks.
Okay, okay, and that sounds like it takes things to a whole nother level. I mean, you told me
Oh
that you
yeah.
do. Is it Kundalini yoga?
Yeah, so I became a Kundalini yoga teacher, so I put Kundalini yoga in there. I put Reiki in there, long distance Reiki, light language, which is just a modern term for speaking in tongues. And then I included light language DNA activations, which is like way out there, I know.
And I would love to hear more about that actually. Like as I came up with things that I would love to chat with you about, like I would love to hear a little bit more about these things if you have time.
Yeah, sure. Like, shoot, because I don't know where
Uh,
to start.
let's start with the yoga, and then we can lead into light language, and then there's so much more that you have, like the DNA activations and the
Yeah.
Reiki stuff.
So the Kundalini yoga it's a specific type of yoga that helps to raise the energy at the base of the spine, um, to create like a spiritual awakening. Back in the olden days, Kundalini yoga was very dangerous because people would go crazy once the Kundalini energy would raise to the top of the head. But this specific Kundalini yoga doesn't do that. It's specifically created to actually be the opposite, like be extremely grounding. It helps to balance the left and right hemispheres of the brain. It helps to rewire the nervous system and the neurological system. So it's just the ultimate like balancer and equalizer and neutralizer and um, I couldn't say enough good things about it, and it can go so deep as to talking about the different angles in in our reality, like these almost like ley lines, energetic ley lines. But that goes way, way, way too deep into it.
Gotcha. We probably don't have enough time for that.
No.
How did you discover these practices? Obviously, there was something at one point in your life that really made you dive into these.
Yeah, for sure. So, by the time I'd gotten into Reiki, which is hands-on healing, um, and light language, which is like speaking like an angelic language, it was very ungrounding for me. So it was very difficult for me to sleep. When you're ungrounded, it's very hard to sleep. It's hard on your nervous system. You're kind of shaky. And so when I heard about Kundalini Yoga, I was sold immediately because I knew that it would ground me and it would help me to get back into my body. Because I was never I was never grounded into my body that much. And so, yeah, it just kind of went zoom, like I went straight into my body with Kundalini Yoga, and I was like, oh my God, like this is what I needed for years, you know? So,
Okay. I mean, you got such a diverse, range of offerings. It's crazy. I'm definitely going to look into it just because, obviously that's how my mind works. When I hear about something and I have, thoughts on it, I'm going to definitely look into it. But for the
yeah,
listeners, oh, go
yeah, and
ahead.
it's like it's only if like you feel called to it, you know. It's not
Mhm.
for everyone, you know. It's
Exactly.
just if your soul feels called to it, then yeah. But I never get upset at anybody if they're not interested in it or anything. I'm like, man, like I wouldn't be interested in it either if my soul wasn't like yanking me. You know what I mean? Like I would
Yeah.
be far, far away from all that.
Yeah, no,
So
and
yeah.
when you told me about it all, leading up to all this, I was like, that seems very interesting, and maybe something that could help me out, and it could help out a listener that tunes in and, listens to this
Oh yeah.
episode. So, I mean, it's word of mouth, but you also learn something new every day. I never knew about any of that.
Oh wow, that makes me so happy. That makes me happy. Um, yeah, so for sure, like, you know, if you feel called to anything or want to research it more, like, there's so much to read on it, and I feel like because there's so much information on it, I feel like whatever you pull up or whatever comes out for you when you look it up, I feel like is for you, you know, and
Yeah,
because there's so many different ways that you can interpret something, and yeah. So I always encourage
100%.
people to research things on their own. Yeah.
So, and that was going to be like my next question for you is, what would you say to someone that is curious and doesn't know where to begin? What what would be
Curious
the
and
first step?
curious and doesn't know where to begin. Well, it depends where they're starting from and like what their main interest is. So, for example, if they're interested in yoga, um, then there's so many other different yogas you can do. There's hatha yoga, um, there's other, you know, simpler forms of yoga. But that would be a great place to start. And that's actually where I started from the very, very get-go. Like I started by learning how to meditate. So that's where I would start. I would start by first finding a teacher because there's so many teachers out there. If you just Google like meditation teacher, or you can even teach yourself. Um, but learn how to meditate and stick to it for what I did is I stuck to a meditation for 1 year and then everything like popped off from there.
Okay. Okay. Um,
Mm-hmm.
well, that's a lot of information. And yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna run with it. I mean, because we all deal with stressful lives and things like that. We all need to find ourselves. We all need to really get in tune with ourselves. So, I mean,
Yeah. And everybody does it in a different way. Some
yeah.
people like lift weights and some people run. Some people drink. Some people, and believe me, I've been there, but, and some people meditate, it just depends. Everybody has a different outlet.
100%. So, one last thing here. You mentioned to me you had a Hocus Pocus Instagram page. Unfortunately, that was taken down. But yeah, you have a new one. If you would like, I would love for you to pitch it, let everybody know what that's about and where they could find you at.
Yeah, so I have a new one. I just started it I don't know, a week ago, if that. Because my old one was taken down multiple times by I don't know who. And so yeah, it's at Amanda Marie Shepherd. And it's just all the way through Amanda Marie Shepherd. And on there I have basically my book and Shekinah Speaks on there, and then I'll be posting Hocus Pocus stuff as well.
Perfect. Well, I'll put that down in the description as well, and as well as a link to the book, because I'm gonna find that for everybody.
Oh, thank you.
100%. Yeah. But no, I definitely appreciate you being on. I hope you had a good time, and definitely be in touch. Definitely be in touch.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to the Archives with Adam podcast. We hope you enjoyed this week's deep dive into this week's guest stories and insights. And don't forget to stay updated on upcoming episodes only at the Archives with Adam podcast on Facebook and the Archives with Adam on Instagram. Catch you in the next episode.